You're listening to the Shelift Project podcast, a show dedicated to helping women achieve higher levels of success in the workplace. No matter where you are in your career, we want to help you grow. Now here's your host, Cynthia Kirkpatrick, a CPA, CFP, and Senior Financial Advisor at Moneta Group.
Welcome to another episode of the Shelift Project podcast. I'm Cynthia Kirkpatrick. Thank you for joining us today. And we have Ali Hogan. We're going to talk about connecting people, helping people accelerate their careers, not only from the beginning steps, but a program that actually helps them through many different steps to really accelerate and empower. And I have, for people who are just listening and not watching on YouTube, I have notes after notes of all the things that I read, different articles that survive to thrive. There's educational, professional, financial resources, confidence. You're trying to build confidence in professional women, community, bringing other nonprofits together. I'm saying all this because I'm going to be forced to put my notes away. And there was so much good information. So I want to say thank you for joining us today, because I know it's going to be an interesting, powerful, and insightful learning conversation today.
Of course. I love sharing this story because the best way to spread the news is to just talk about it.
Yeah. And today, what we'll talk about is definitely Rung for women and how you are empowering and helping women to, again, something else you mentioned through this is really living the life that they deserve and that they're earning. Yes. Through the work that they're doing with your program. So this isn't just, a handout and sort of a come here, here's a little bit, on your way, good luck. Mm-hmm. This really is what they deserve and what they're earning, this whole program that everybody is working so hard to deliver, and I would assume continuing to evolve and develop. And
my staff is pretty scared whenever I come in the room and I go, we have an idea. They're like, oh God, we just got used to the last idea. Now we have a new idea. Great.
But I'm sure that's exactly what you're trying to inspire in the women that you help is, continuing to learn and create and grow. And here you are doing it with the organization and the staff and the group.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Rung for Women. It's funny to me because I've heard it everywhere. And
that's great. I love hearing that.
I do, all the time. Maybe it's because I am a woman. Maybe it's because I'm involved in a lot of organizations that help women. It's a passion. The podcast, obviously. But I feel like it's been around forever. But the organization itself really started in 2017. However, the seeds were planted many years before. Yes. But Rung for Women itself, for those who may be living in a dark hole somewhere who don't know what it is, explain it.
So Rung for Women, and I'm trying to figure out how far back I want to go. Looking back now, it happened exactly the way it should have happened because it started out as a resale shop, which is a pretty easy concept. But the idea behind it was to help women who are getting into these corporate jobs could have the proper attire to show up. Dress for the job you wanted was sort of our motto. And the store was wonderful and we had a great time. But what we were hearing from women was, they're coming out of these difficult situations or they're still in a difficult situation and they don't know what the next step is. And there is a gap of services between crisis and sustainable independence. So how can we sort of capture those women? There's so much crisis intervention in St. Louis. And so, I'm thinking I don't need to help with crisis necessarily. I need to help after crisis so that they don't end up back. So then it became a whole research project of what are the needs. And with women, it's barriers. It's, single moms. It's, taking care of aging parents. It's multiple jobs that don't pay well. It's not having a car. There are a million reasons why women can't get ahead. How can we help the whole person? Instead of just saying, here's a job, show up on Monday, how can we help them be prepared? How can we help them be excited? How can we help them figure out what they want to do, not just what's available to them? And when you sort of put that whole picture together, the confidence is really the basis of all of it. I mean, these women have just been surviving for so long. They have no idea what they want. They have no idea what they're good at. They've just put themselves on the back burner because they have so many other fires to put out on a daily basis. So we really tried to make this a program that could deal with all of their barriers, and then giving them a gentle handoff to the beginning of a new career.
It's great. St. Louis is so amazing. There's so many nonprofits. It's so charitable.
Yeah.
Growing up here, I've learned that, but I hear that from others who come in to the community from out of town who say that St. Louis is so charitable and giving. So why create something that's already there, as you mentioned, with all these crises, you know, nonprofits who can help there. And as you mentioned, the struggle, I think, is great. I'm out of that situation. I got the help there, but I really need that sort of that support and sustainability until I get to the place where I'm no longer keeping my nose above the water barely and surviving.
Yes.
I'm in that, even if it's just a living mode, let alone thriving.
Yes.
And to that way, then they don't go back and revert to that crisis mode.
Correct. And a lot of them do because that's all they know. So what we're really trying to create here is generational change. And when the kids are in our facility seeing their moms doing this work, it shows them a completely different path that, and to no fault of their moms, it never seemed possible. So we're possibility creators. We're saying, can you imagine being in a job where you actually have benefits, or where you can plan a vacation, or where you have room to grow and be promoted and make more money? And it's such a foreign concept to so many of them. And, especially when you have young kids, it's just very hard to ever put yourself first. So we're saying it's time to put yourself first, and we can help you with all of the other stuff, but you need to give us this time because we promise you in the long run, it's going to make your life better. It's going to make your kids' lives better. And so the idea between all of these extra services, the mental health, the physical health, the financial help, that already exists. So let's find those people who are already doing that work and bring them in and work together. The collaboration process is huge and so impactful. So, I think sometimes while people's hearts are in the right place with wanting to help people, they also want to do it in a vacuum. And, even based on today's climate and, people struggling with funding, it's really nice when you have each other to sort of lean on, and let the people who are good at what they do what they do. And we can do something else, but we can all be in the same building and under the same roof.
Yeah, so talk more about that, because is that where you mentioned bringing different nonprofits together to support the women and build this program of all these different resources? So it's not necessarily Rung for Women who's saying, okay, we're the financial educational experts and we're providing this. You're bringing in a different nonprofit as that arm or spoke maybe of the wheel that is providing.
Correct. And truthfully, it makes our lives easier. We've been partnering, Provident was one of our original partners, and they provide our therapists. And it's helpful for us because I don't have to find a therapist and I don't have to be trained to be a therapist. Provident can supply a therapist for us, which has been great because now all of our members have access to 12 sessions while they're in the program. And then if they need more, then Provident can sort of take them in-house and find them a different therapist, but it's all under the same Provident umbrella. And then we have Urban Harvest, who manages all of our gardens, which is really great because we're also teaching women how to eat healthier and take away the stigma of like healthy food is expensive, it tastes bad, it's bland. So now we have these amazing farmers who are creating this food that we just have our own sort of internal farmers market. And then these women are taking these things home. We can give them recipes of ways to make things taste really good. So working with all these partners together, Family Care Health Center has a clinic on site. A lot of these women have never had a well women check and their kids can't get vaccinated or whatever the case may be. And we can do all of that for them in our building. So our partners have their own offices and buildings So we're sort of more of a satellite office for them, but the ones that are in our building are only serving our women. So it's really actually made our lives much easier because we don't have to be experts in everything. And there have been some changes over the years about we've taken some things in-house and we've taken, we brought in other partners. So it's a really good way of making it a community effort and not just a Rung effort.
The bits I know about this, so maybe even telling the story of how it goes from a woman gets involved in what her experience is through the Rung program. There's groups, women go through this together, almost like I think it was a college class.
Yes. So we call them cohorts because we feel like college, if they come in together, then they have each other. And they're all going to go in different directions, but we want them to have that solid group. Women in crisis or women who are struggling financially or food insecure are very isolated, and they feel embarrassed, or they feel nobody understands them, or they don't have anything to contribute. So they just sort of live in these very isolated places. And when they find other women that are so much like them, it's amazing how much they open up and talk and support. And so the community aspect of it is really the foundation of what we're doing here. We're creating a community. And so we think of it as kind of a college process because you all start in your freshman class. You all pick different majors. You all finish at different times and end up working in different places, but you have that core group. And so we love to hear about our cohorts that have book clubs or Thursday suppers, or, they'll do like they'll come in and do study groups together. But they really connect with each other. And when you think about the ages of these women, our average age is closer to 40, because a lot of the women that we're working with are sort of in their second or third chapter. So we don't have a lot of members who are in their early 20s, but it's great because then you have a member who's 30 and you have a member who's 60, and they become really good friends because their stories are actually very similar. And so it's really fun to just watch everybody grow together.
Yeah, and I think about, we just dropped my son off about a month ago at college as a freshman. All of us as freshmen, right? The nerves, the worry, the wonder, the what do I need? And there is sort of an innate community as a freshman of what you're all going through. And women, I think in general, talking about this before we even hit record, if that's even a thing, my husband's back there, how he's recording all this, but talked about how women yearn for community and often think, are in a corner silent, thinking they're alone, and what they're going through, am I crazy, or am I the odd one, or why can't I just get this figured out? Or, I think we're just conditioned that we have to have this facade of everything's okay.
We're good. Yeah.
And to be able to, come together and just be real and break down that mask and that wall and build those relationships in a safe space. I've heard so many women, no matter what group it is, to say, wow, I need a sisterhood. That energizes me, that drives me to just push, do more, be more, just whatever it is that sort of hit me internally, of how much I'm sure that helps them kind of on their own journey.
Well, we just started our 9th cohort, and it's funny because now we've had enough women. We've served over 500 women, and I will run into them randomly out doing things. And I went to drop my daughter off at the eye doctor, and the girl who was checking me out, because my email is Ali at Rung for Women, and she goes, "Oh, I'm cohort 5." And there's pride in that. They take ownership in which cohort they were, because then it sort of also helps us be like, oh yeah, cohort 5, you guys had, this track that so many of you did, or, whatever the case may be. But it's fun to now see them out in the community. And this one in particular is actually moving to Chicago. She got some amazing IT job, and she was working at this eye doctor temporarily, just until she was going to move to Chicago. So she didn't have any medical training. She was just basically an admin person. But it made me curious. I'm going, okay, so is this your track now, or are you going to be working? And she goes, no, I'm moving to Chicago. I got this really good job in technology. And so this is just what I'm doing until I start my job. And she said, I never would have thought outside of St. Louis. I never would have thought to go for this job that I feel barely qualified for. There's a statistic out there where men will apply to a job if they're even only 10% qualified. Women will not apply to a job unless they believe that they're 80% qualified, because we don't want to fail. We don't want to mess up. And she goes, it was just really nice to build that confidence. And she said, I build skills and I build, I got certifications, but it's the feeling behind it that pushes me, And so it was just really, it's working. So it was just so nice to hear that from her. And she said, when I started, and I remembered her, we always do a welcome reception for our new classes. And we make it super fun. And we have like a really nice buffet, and we have music, and we dance, and we, people from past cohorts get up and talk about their stories. And we acknowledge that it's scary and it's going to be a lot of work, but here we are together doing this. And I remember this girl, and she showed up for that reception, and she was just very quiet. She just sat at the table. She didn't really talk to anybody. And here she is, sitting behind this desk being like, oh yeah, I'm moving to Chicago in a couple months. I've got this great job. I found it online. I called them. I drove up there for the interview. And so I was just so proud of her for having the confidence and the strength to just go for it. So it's really nice to see that.
So someone like her and the other 100 to 120 women that go through these cohorts, how does Rung find them? How do they find Rung? How does it start?
A lot of it is word of mouth, actually. We get a lot of women who come in and because their sister did it, or their friend did it, or their daughter did it, or whatever the case may be. We do a lot of recruiting on social media, and we have, because of this collaboration with these other nonprofits, we also get referrals from them. Like Crisis Nursery is a great example. They, help women in crisis. And then it's so nice for them to be able to say, okay, you've kind of graduated out of this program, but here's an option for you. And so it's not just, here's this one person over at social services that you can talk to. It's like, here's a whole program for you that can keep you on the path that you're on. So it's really nice to have those kinds of resources. And some of the women we get are not in crisis and not out of crisis. They're just stuck. We do require that they make less than $50,000 a year in order to be at Rung. There is an interesting gap between government assistance and financial security. So some women that we meet have been living off of financial assistance, and they're afraid to let that go and make enough money where they don't qualify anymore, because there is a big gap there. You can't necessarily live off of government funding, but it's more than an entry-level job, let's say, in some instances. So it's very hard to sort of change their mindset where I realize this is working for you now, but if you maybe take a step back for 6 months to a year, we can move you up way faster, and there's actually potential for growth. So you're not constantly living in this, are they going to cut this funding? Am I going to be able to get food stamps? Those things change all the time. What does qualify me for government funding? So we're asking them to trust us that there are other options for you. We just need you to get on the train and dream with us.
And it sounds like stick with the pain that I know versus take a risk and fear of the unknown.
Correct. And when you're responsible for multiple other people, it feels selfish to make that choice. But we're saying, no, it will actually help you. It will help your kids. It will give you some freedom and some support. And so it takes a minute. It's a pretty long process to get into a cohort intentionally. There's an interest application, there's an interview, there's a longer application, because we want people to go through the process. If it's not your time, it's not your time, and that's okay.
How long about is that process?
So we'll start recruiting probably November, December for our March cohort. So we will start taking applications then, and then we'll start to narrow them down after the first of the year. And then we sort of recruit as we need to. But it's a process. You're not coming in tomorrow to start, but also intentional. If you really want this and you're willing to put in the work, then we are going to make your dreams come true. And we get to deal with the stuff on the back end. We get to deal with finding the employers. We get to deal with, figuring out how to help you in this way. We're the ones who need to figure out what are the resources that you need. So we get to do all of that stuff on the back end. We just need you to show up and do the work. And it's working.
And it's about a 6 month or
It's like
longer
6 months to a year. It just kind of depends on what your track is. So we focus on advanced manufacturing, which is an incredibly well-paying job. For us, it's more about selling what that is. So advanced manufacturing is really the building or creating of anything. I think in general, people think of it as you're in a dusty warehouse and it's dark and, so we're changing that. We're taking them to Boeing. We're taking them to these other places to see how it works. And so more women are getting involved in that. But we chose advanced manufacturing because it's not going anywhere. It's totally underserved by women and women of color. So these are the kind of jobs that we can find for them. And then any of the IT tracks, so we're starting a new curriculum for data analytics. We do project management. So we only have a few tracks on purpose because we want to be really good at those tracks and we want to have really good relationships with the employers who are creating those jobs. So but we get to deal with all that and they get to just show up.
And when they show up, do they stop their current jobs and they show up, or they're still working, but they're coming? And
so we do require they be currently working. All of our programming happens in the evening and on Saturdays. We say loosely, this is a 10-hour-a-week commitment. There are definitely sections, like we have a 4-month program. We call it Professional Power Skills, and that's really where we work on soft skills. So all of those things that we feel like are very rational to us, that just, a lot of women grew up with working moms, and so they know some of these things. But some of these women don't. They don't know how to dress properly. They don't know how to negotiate their pay. They don't understand what benefits look like. So that's really the period of time where they build confidence and learn how to behave in a workplace. Behavior and performance go hand in hand. You can be great at your job, but if your behavior is not good, or if you are a toxic person in a work environment, it's not going to work. So this is where we work on their confidence and their ability to be in an environment that can be intimidating or hardworking or whatever the case may be. And then we get into technical training, which is whatever path they've gone on. And then in all of that, they're working on resume writing, they're working on interview skills. We have a simulation where we bring in actors and we do real interoffice situations. How do you deal with conflict? So we really just try to prepare them for not necessarily the worst case scenario, but we just don't want them to be caught off guard because their ability is there. It's just a matter of honing it into what it's actually going to look like on the day-to-day.
Well, a couple of things that you say there. One, so much of it is it's hard to become what you don't see.
Yes.
Or what you're not accustomed to.
100%.
And so I think is what you referenced, the abilities and the capabilities are there. Mm-hmm. So much of it is then showing them, giving them examples, teaching and practicing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what you're teaching them, everyone needs. And oftentimes, I don't even think these are taught in families or in schools, et cetera. I mean, a lot of people will have on the podcast talk about having to learn how to manage conflict, having to learn, being 30, 40, long into their careers and learning about conflict management and hard negotiation skills and things like that they weren't taught. So I guess with many of these women maybe being in their second phase or third phase of their careers, great skills that all of us should have, and many of us don't or haven't been taught early on.
Yeah, and it's progress, not perfection. One of the things we really like to do is the relationships we have with the employers. We trust that if there's an issue with a Rung member who's working for them, they can call us and we can sort of deal with that on our end because they're already familiar with us, they're already comfortable with us. So if there is an employee, and this has happened, if we have a member who goes and works for another company, if they're having a hard time getting to work on time, or if they no call, no showed, we say to the employer, look, let us work through this with them so that you don't have to do it, but we're just sort of extra support on the back end. And we've had members that have gone to work for companies where they were on a project to project basis, government funded or whatever. And then the funding runs out and they get laid off. And so then they get to come back to us and we go, okay, back to the drawing board. What else is out there? What else is available? So we never want them to feel lost or forgotten or ignored. So we always sort of have that cushion for them, whatever may happen. And a lot of times it's not their fault. It's just to shift somebody's mindset takes a lot of time. So we give a lot of grace for those things, and companies are hearing that, and they're saying, I would much rather work with who I have than just let them go and try to find somebody else. There is so much talent out there that is undiscovered, that really all it comes down to is training and time and understanding. And it's just amazing to watch them grow.
Progress, not perfection. Mm-hmm. Love that. Probably something I need to, I'm sure my husband's back there going, I hope she's taking that in. And it takes time to change and work on mindset.
Yes.
And, you think about the habits that we build over decades. Mm-hmm. It's not a flip of a switch that's going to change. And I would imagine for a lot of the women you're working with that for so long they've felt in a lot of ways, whatever, it doesn't have to be physically, but just unsafe or insecure or
judged.
Yeah, these people aren't really here to help me.
Yes.
They're here to get something out of me. Yes. So that it takes time for your team to build that trust and that work.
Well, it's a teach a man to fish, right? I mean, it's a long runway. It's worth it. But there are going to be setbacks, and there are going to be days where you feel like you can't do it and it's too hard, and that's okay. And we acknowledge that. So let's work together to figure out what can we do. And, it's been such an education for me because with our financial coaching, there are women who have late bills and they honestly don't even open the envelopes anymore because they're like, I can't pay it. And it just makes me feel like I'm failing every time I get one of these notices. So they feel like they're so deep in it, there's no way out. And it's as little as saying like, hey, instead of ignoring the bill, why don't you call the company and see if you can get on some kind of payment plan? Or why don't you decide what you could pay at the minimum every month and try to negotiate that with them? And we don't do it for them. We just sort of give them some tools to do it for themselves. But it's amazing when there's just this black and white mentality, like, nope, I'm too deep in, I'm never getting out, to, we've seen women in a year buy a house. I mean, there are ways to get help, but you can do it yourself. You really just need somebody behind you pushing you along.
I imagine the transformations that are made, where you shared a little bit earlier, but I'm sure there's a million more from start to finish and beyond, just the changes, any of them that stick out to you.
Yeah. So interestingly, silver lining with COVID, we opened at the perfect time for COVID because women were losing jobs, kids weren't in school, they had to stay home, all these things, getting out of certain industries and being like, I can't be in healthcare anymore, whatever that was. But, we had a girl in our first cohort who was a server, and she was, couch surfing. And by the end of the program, she got this job working for basically a beer company that had an office in Antarctica. So she literally moved out to Antarctica for a year to work for this brewing company. And she's back in the States now. I believe she's in Nashville working for some other, I don't even think it's a brewing company. I think she's doing marketing for some other business. So, and she would say to us, I mean, I literally went from couch surfing and waitressing to living in Antarctica. I mean, I love those stories. And my family started Enterprise Mobility, and they've hired a few of our members, which is so great because then those women come back and talk about their stories. And some of it's the same. Some of it's, I was making $32,000 a year. I have 2 kids. I'm a single mom. I got divorced, or whatever the case may be. Some of them are more tragic, but there are themes that are the same. Somebody working at, gosh, there's so many. We have several members that have gone to Boeing. We have several members that have gone to Accenture, and they've gone from like $32,000 a year up to like $60,000, $70,000 a year. And when they get those promotions, it's almost like you have to help them process that because now you get into that feeling of, okay, I'm now making all this money. I really can't fail. You know, that period of time of like, now the expectations are higher and I can't screw it up is a new feeling for them, but it's great. And we're like, you wouldn't have gotten this job if you didn't deserve it. And so, you know, we have in the last couple cohorts, we have women who have fairly young kids, and they were working at fast food restaurants and they were doing okay. But, you know, you're one car breakdown, you're one sick kid, you're one something away from losing those jobs, because there's no stability in that. There's no job security in that. And so, you know, we have had women take these massive jumps. And now some of them, Commerce is one of our amazing employer partners. Now, someplace like Commerce are saying, you might have to take a bit of a pay cut in the beginning because we need you. We have a very specific track we want to put you on, and this is just what the track is. And you're going to do this for a couple months, and then you're going to move up to this, and you're going to move up to this. And that's very scary for them to think about a pay cut. However, it's fast. There's a path that you can see. So if you can give it 6 months, you will be making way more than you're making now. We just need you to go through those first few months. There is no silver bullet here. We're not saying if you come to Rung, you're gonna be making a 6-figure salary. But what we are saying is we are gonna get you started. So it is really fun to watch. And this COVID thing was so strange because, you know, they're losing jobs or they're having to quit jobs. So then we can get them set up with a virtual job. Like, imagine if you could sit around in COVID with your kids, but also be working. I mean, it's pretty impressive what's happened. And, you know, we have women who say, I really want to work at this company. One in particular, I really want to work at this company, but I got to be out by 3. I got to get my kids from school. How do I negotiate that? And it's like, you negotiate it. You say it on day one. You know, and figure out a way to compromise with that. Like, if your job says you only have to be in office 3 days a week, say, I will be in office 4 days a week, but I got to leave at 3. Like, there's a way to negotiate what that looks like. And I do feel like the world is leaning into work-life balance better. And I think they're understanding that kids especially are very time consuming. And when they're sick, like, you can't just leave them at home. You got to be home with them. So I feel like there is a little bit more flexibility when it comes to figuring out what that looks like. And so it's been really interesting to watch that fear sort of subside. Like, okay, so if I talk to my boss and I say, I really want this job and I'm really qualified for it, but I got to leave at 3, they rarely hear no. People just want to understand where you are. And those are the employers we choose to work with. We guarantee they will have equal pay. We guarantee they will be in a safe environment where they will be treated with respect. And if that's not the case, then we will be the ones to deal with it, because it's not okay. So, and we have had little instances like that where we'll have a member come back and say, I got this job, but I know my coworker who's a man makes more than me. Is it because I'm new? Is it because I haven't been in this industry for very long? And we're like, not necessarily. So then we get to make a call. And that's what we're promising them. So we have to follow through on that.
Yeah, they have a team behind them for a long time, longer than this 6, 12, 18-month program, yes. Much longer. And yes. Sounds like the women in these situations, in order to change their mindsets, heart sets, soul sets, all of that they need that long-term
yes.
support that they've never had.
Well, they need to feel like they can mess up. That feeling of it's okay to mess up because I got these people. Eventually they won't need us, but it's nice to have that feeling of it's okay. I don't have to be perfect. They got me. And that's, you know, wearing the shirt that said, you got this, you got us. That's what we're doing. So, yeah, there are so many stories about women and their promotions and their, you know, some of our women stay with the same companies they're in. They just get a promotion because now they have a new certification. We call it skill building. So we give them different levels of skills so that they can either stay in the same job and get paid more, or they can move up in the company that they're in. It's just a bit of a nudge. We're now doing a forklift training
Ah,
So especially for our members doing advanced manufacturing, like my staff's doing it too. I mean, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? So we're always looking for those fun opportunities to get certified in things that could really help you later.
is this a great idea that you had one day where you came in?
Somebody came to us with it, actually. And we were like, forklifting. Who doesn't want to drive a forklift? That's kind of fun, right? So, yeah, I mean, we're always open to those sort of fun other things. The other thing we really focus on is we try to only partner with companies who don't require a bachelor's degree. We have a lot of members who have bachelor's degree. We have some who have master's degrees, but a lot of them don't, and they're not going to. They don't have the time. So that's a big thing for us. You know, is this going to require a bachelor's degree? Because we can train them in specifically what they're going to be doing, but they might not have the paper that you're looking for, which to me is kind of silly, but it is what it is. So we really try to work around that too.
Something you talked about earlier was helping women, these individuals, learn what they want, what they want to do. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Just a basic question of, what do you want? What do you want to do? You know, you have kids who are in high school, going to college. What do you want to do? What are you going to major in? It's such just a few words, overwhelming question. What do you find when you work with them, or how do you help them figure that out? Because I think a lot of us struggle with that.
Well, I think, and we don't want to be dream crushers, but we struggle with when people say things like, I want to be an influencer. I want to be an entrepreneur. Okay, that's great. But do you really know what that means? Being an entrepreneur, I think a lot of people think, oh, it's really sexy. I get to work for myself. I can make my own hours. Yeah, not really, because you got to get a product. You got to get the money to make the product. You got to sell the product. Like, that's all on you. So for us at this point, we're not trying to say don't ever be an entrepreneur. We're just saying for the time being, you need to get to a place where you can then chase that dream. But you can't just become an influencer because you post a funny video. I mean, it's just not that. But when you really think about it, that's all they're exposed to. We live in a social media world. So they don't know what advanced manufacturing is. They don't know what data analytics is. They don't know what cybersecurity is. So it's our job to teach them what those things are. So we do a lot of field trips. We do a lot of tours. Before they pick a pathway, we want to make sure they're making an educated choice. But, you know, especially women of color, they don't see themselves in technology jobs. That is not wrong. So how do we get women in front of you who look like you to show you that you can do this? We are going to be starting a whole AI for all curriculum, because we also want our members to be educated on AI, because that's where the world is going. And if we can get them ahead of the game, or at least in the game, the doors will open up for them. But a lot of them are like, I've never seen, you know, a Black woman on TV doing this, or I've never seen, you know, when I have a repair person come to my house, help me fix my computer, it's never a Black woman. So it's really just about like, then you can change that. You are necessary, and we need you in these jobs. And these jobs are going to be really good jobs for you. So it's about, you don't have to see it. You can just be it. So you be the person. And then you can come back to Rung for our next class and be like, look what I'm doing. You can see me in this job. And that's been great too. But again, a lot of that happens with the support. And there's a fear and there's a trust issue with a lot of companies, because people have heard something or whatever the case may be. And we just have to be like, none of that matters. It's just noise. Train for what you want to do, get the dang job, make more money, and we got you.
Yeah, it's that it's the support, right? The support behind them to say, we've got you, you've got this, we've got you, and we're going to help you see maybe beyond your own limitations. We released a podcast last week, and by the time this airs, it'll be a month, but with Maxine Clark, who talked about, you know, sometimes just sharing a little bit about yourself will help others see something in you that you can't see in yourself?
Yeah, I said we started our new cohort 2 Fridays ago. We had a welcome reception, and I get up to say something, and the first thing I say is, does anybody feel like a weirdo in this room? And I swear like 80% of them raise their hands, and I'm like, I'm a weirdo too. I mean, when we can just be real and genuine, it's amazing. And in a building full of women, you can imagine some of the conversations that are being had. We really try to like avoid the gossip and the drama. However, we all have things. We have weird things with our bodies. We have weird things in our relationships. We have weird things when we're dealing with teenagers. And if we can't talk about it, we're never going to get anywhere. So it's really nice to walk around the building and hear these conversations about, you know, my kid is struggling with this. What do you think I should do? You know, I'm hitting menopause. This is really hard. I don't understand what this means. I mean, it's so nice to just have them be like, hey, I'm not perfect and I struggle. And that's okay. We all struggle in our own ways.
So important, because we're taught for so long to not talk about these things. And how are we going to learn? How are we going to grow? And or how are we going to help others learn and grow if we don't talk about them?
Yeah, we have a lot of women who come in with health issues. So whether it's diabetes or obesity or lots of those things. And we have a wellness coach that sort of, per their permission, between the clinic, the gym, and the kitchen, we can sort of teach them all of the healthy things, and we can put them on an exercise plan. And I mean, we have had members, we've lost thousands of pounds, and we celebrate it. And when women can be like, I just lost 20 pounds by getting up in the morning and walking every day, and, you know, I'm no longer diabetic, or I'm whatever the case. And it's like, we celebrate that. And it's not about thinking like, oh, I'm fat. Nobody looks at me like a real person. They just look at me as a fat. Now it's like, no, that's not who you are. That's just something you struggle with. And that's okay. It's very hard to explain to funders those pieces because it's not a straight line. Having diabetes doesn't prevent you from getting a job. But not having diabetes helps you have a better quality of life. That's not really measurable, which is one of the places we struggle, is trying to sell that, the mental, the physical, all of the emotional. That stuff's very hard to measure, but it's really necessary.
Well, and when you're a better whole person, you're better at work. You show up better. You're more productive. You're more creative. You're
more active.
Yeah, you're better relationships with the people that you're working with. You're happier. Hard to measure.
It's hard to measure, but it's there, and it does matter.
And I would think from a when you start thinking about benefits and wellness, I mean, if you're not diabetic anymore, you're not on those medicines. That's certainly better for the health insurance.
Well, and birth control is huge because women tend to only know about the pill, and they're not great at taking it. They don't know where to get it, whatever the case may be. We have a foundation that donates product for us. But one of the big things we're trying to do is educate them. So when we have a doctor on call, she will go through all of your options. We can do an IUD. We can do the pill. We can do the patch. We can do whatever. Your choice. And here's what I would recommend for you. But at the end of the day, it's your choice. Because a lot of these women don't want to have more kids, or they're newly single and they don't really know what that's going to look like for them. And it's like they've never sat down and had somebody explain to them the options. And I'm so happy that we have institutions like Planned Parenthood that would help with these kinds of things. But it's really nice that we can just do that in our own building. And that's offered to our staff too. But like, women's health is such a big deal and people don't want to talk about it because it is gross and it's complicated and it's, there's a lot. So it's nice when you can narrow the field a bit.
Yeah, it's as you were talking, whether they don't hear about it or just in general, if 50% or however much of the population we make up, we don't talk about the physical things that we go through. And it's so varied throughout our lifespan And it's so important and heavy that we don't talk about it. And we're ignorant of it.
100%.
No matter where we're at or who we are.
Yeah, and we work really hard to not be an anti-anything. We try to be a pro-things. Everybody has different political views. We all know that. We offer the flu shot. We offer the COVID shot, which might be changing a little bit. But if you choose not to do those things, great. If you choose to do them, great too. We really try hard to keep the personal feelings about things out, because we really want to be pro-things. And I get this question a lot because I'm working with women. Well, what's wrong with men? Why do you want to help men? And I'm like, I'm not anti-man. I'm a woman. I'm in a family of women. Women is what I know. And I see where we're struggling. And so that's my plan.
It is interesting to be in the space, right? And the questions often are, well, are you, anti-man? Are you negative men?
Yeah, I'm not a bra burning feminist organization. I'm trying to create an equal playing field.
Right, and fill in a gap that you see, that you can relate to, I would think, to some extent, right? I'm female. I think I understand how some females think better than how I understand how men think, because I don't. And I think I can fill a gap there. But it is interesting to see some of the questions I receive on the back end of, what's that podcast about? So I find that curious that you say that.
Yeah, it's interesting. And and especially in the last year or so, I've been invited to certain tables of people, and I've been in ones where I'm the only woman, and I've been in ones that are all women. And it's so funny because everybody's having the same conversations, just in a different way. But women just offer an emotional perspective that is really valuable. And it's funny because I do believe someday when we're all on an equal playing field, like, we all have our parts to play. I'm just trying to get everybody a seat at the table, and every seat at the table has something to say. And it was funny, I was recently at this this collaborative conversation just about the state of St. Louis and like what we can do to help improve the city and all of that. And, I'm the only woman, and everybody's talking about what do they do to keep their minds strong and to be, stay in a good mental space. And 80% of them talked about whatever workout plan they're on. And I said, well, I have 3 therapists. And they're looking at me like, why? And I'm going, because that's how I stay mentally healthy. Like, I need people that I can bounce things off of, and the exercising is great. But it was so funny because they're all looking at me going, and I'm guessing most of them have therapists too. It's just not the first thing they choose to say. I find that women lead with that, which is an interesting observation. So it's been fun.
You mentioned earlier, when you were young, dressing up and how you wanted to provide that for women in careers. But help me understand just more of your background, because I love Rung. How did this come about, or what's inside Ali with all this passion to deliver all this?
Yeah, it's really funny. I love to tell people that there has not been a man born in my family for 75 years. So my grandfather, who started Enterprise, who's a wonderful man, and then my uncle, my mom's brother, last man to be born in my family. So I am the youngest I have a sister, and then I have 3 female cousins. So I've always been the baby. But from a very early age, I was taught to show up in a certain way. Like, you're meeting these people, we're building this business, we need you on your best behavior. Keep in mind, however you are out there is a reflection on us, like all these things. My grandfather started a foundation for just me and my sister and my cousins. I was 13. And he made us find organizations that we were passionate about, and we'd have 2 meetings a year. We'd come to the meeting with our proposals. He would decide if it was good enough or not, and he had turned me down on a few things, which is interesting. But it was such a good lesson for me, because he's like, I don't think you dug deep enough. Like, I feel like you're missing something. Why did you choose this? Was it the low-hanging fruit? And it really just made me think about giving back to the community. So that's really where my philanthropic seed was planted. And then as I got older, so my mom runs the foundation at Enterprise, and she also runs the Crawford Taylor Foundation, which is my family's foundation. My sister works for her. And then my cousin is now working, with my uncle running Enterprise. So we sort of went, my side of the family is sort of more philanthropic foundation, and they're more, running the business, which is great. So when I was sort of struggling in my life to figure out my purpose, I didn't really know. So I thought, I'm going to open a store and sell clothes because that's fun. And it was a great experience. For 8 years, we had that store open. It was a great experience. We sold babies' clothes. We sold women's clothes. We did the whole thing. But I wasn't having the impact that I wanted. The money that I made from the store would go to the Women's Foundation, but it wasn't enough. So I'm like, okay, I'm hard stop. Closed in 2018, and then I'm like, now I'm on this journey. And I had already sort of started on this journey, but I knew really early on that this was the right place for me. I visited a couple places around the country that are these sort of multiple. I visited a place in Cincinnati that does kind of what I do, like a holistic approach, but it's for more people who are homeless. So I took like a little bit of that, I took a little bit of this, and I just sort of created my own new thing. But I also learned early on that I'm a dreamer. I am not a business person. I cannot read a financial statement. I cannot strategize a 5-year plan. So then I started hiring people whose brains worked that way. And so I can sort of throw a dream at them, and they can be like, okay, I'm going to make a logic model, and I'm going to make a predictive index, and I'm going to do these things. And I'm like, okay, great. So we're good. We can make this happen. I can deal with the social stuff. I can talk to the people. I can share my vision, but I can't do the nitty gritty stuff. So acknowledging that early on was really important for me, because this would have taken so much longer if I had tried to figure it all out on my own. So when I found my president, Leslie Gill, and I had a couple board members, and we just marathon, just running. And it all came together really well. And I had to adjust some of my vision based on what was going to work and what wasn't. But the general theme is what it is, which is empowering women. And, now I know more technical terms, like I'm trying to build the middle class. I'm trying to skill build. These are all very technical terms that weren't necessarily in my brain before, but they are now. And it all makes sense. So it's great for me because my sister gets to, do soccer, and my mom and her get to do the foundation, and my uncle and my cousin get to do the company and all of that. And I kind of get to do my own thing, which is great because this is where I'm meant to be.
Looking back, anything that stands out where you're like, this all makes sense?
Yeah.
Like, I was supposed to do this, and these things helped me get there, or that was my personality all along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely had a failure to launch. I did a little bit of advertising. I worked at the Humane Society. I worked at Merritt's. I was a travel director. I worked in restaurants. And I'm lucky because I was able to try, and I always had a cushion. And I know most people don't have that. And I really, really acknowledge that. So while it took me a little longer to get to where I was meant to go, I knew I was in the right place. And so there were moments along the line where I was like, okay, this is really hard. Am I going to be able to do this? I mean, I questioned myself too, but that's where you need your people to help you. Like, no, you can check out today. I got you today. But a month from now, I'm going to check out, and you got to have me. And that's just how it's all worked. But I realize in the position that I'm in, I don't feel obligated to give back, but I do feel like I should. I don't have to make a lot of money, and I come from a very blessed family. So this is my choice. This is my legacy. This is what I want to do. And I've never had a moment of regret.
My next question, although maybe you just answered it, was, or maybe it can be parallel, was looking back, would you change anything?
I don't think so. I maybe would have started earlier. Like, I kind of wish I had not spent all those years spinning my wheels. But I also think it toughened me up a bit and made me realize, not so much, I don't know that it helped me figure out what I wanted, but it helped me figure out what I didn't want. So when you start sort of checking things off the box of things you know you don't want to do, don't want to do retail again, don't want to own a restaurant, I don't want to be in advertising, then it does sort of make you think, well, then what do I want to do? So no, that would be the only thing I would change. I would have started earlier. And,
also,
I had kids in this process too. So it was like, I kind of wish I had done it before I had my kids. And then, but that wasn't my path.
And things you've learned along the way, whether it's the successes that have taught you something or the mistakes that have taught you something.
I think it's very hard to feel down when failures happen. It's very hard to keep a really positive mindset on some days. If you lose a member because they've decided they can't do it, or if, we have to let go of one of our employees. I mean, there are disappointments, and it's just about figuring out how to rally. But some days it's harder than others. And I'm a people pleaser, pathologically. So when there's any sort of disruption in the system, or there's any sort of unhappiness in the system, like, I feel that very strongly. But that also means on the really good days, I really feel that too. So it's a good mix for me, but it's also why I have 3 therapists. So.
Well, I was going to ask you as the people pleaser, and I get that. I think I'm one of those pathological people pleasers. What do you do to work through that, get over it, correct it?
Well,
besides
it's like,
the 3 therapists.
And Leslie will say to me, you don't have to say no to everything, but you can't say yes to everything either. So now, like, I figure out how, when something comes across my desk, like, we want you to do this podcast, or we want you to come to this event, or whatever, I will then send it to my team and be like, what do you guys think? Is this something that will help Rung? Is this something that'll help me? Is it completely unrelated? Because I'm trying to, like, find a way to collaborate with everybody, but I can't, because then you sort of mission creep, and then you're not doing what you set out to do. So I really trust my people to say, this isn't really a good fit for Rung. This isn't really going to move us forward, so you should probably pass. But it's very hard for me to say no. I'm learning, but it's also nice when somebody else can be like, it's okay to say no. I hate it, but I do it.
So maybe a gatekeeper sometimes, or just that consultative person to say, no, if you were leaning that way, it's a hard pass.
Yeah, or if you want to do it for you, great. Don't do it for Rung, because it's not really going to do anything for us. And yeah, that's hard. I'm getting better, but it's hard. But it's also like when I have to speak at something, they want to give me a script, and I'm like, yeah, I don't do that. I don't want to sound disingenuous. I want you to really know who I am. So I'm going to cuss sometimes, and I'm going to say embarrassing things about myself, but I also feel like that makes me more real. So I don't think I'm saying anything other people don't experience.
Is that something that you've always been able to do, or something that as of late, more recent, you've been like, nope, no script, I'm going to be me?
I think because I'm the baby in my family, I've always been a bit of a question mark. I think, and I'm not saying the standards for me were lower. I just think because I've always been the baby, it was just my job to be like the goofy, silly little sister. And I kind of just ran with it. And now I'm like, I'm good being a weirdo. I'm totally fine. I don't need to look my best all the time. I don't need to always say the right thing. I like asking questions. I like admitting when I don't know something. But I think that came from being the baby, because everyone was kind of like, she'll get there eventually. Let's groom the older kids to figure out what their path is in life. But Allie will figure it out. She'll get there eventually. So I think that sort of helped me. Everyone just kind of assumed I was good. And I was. So I just, it's nice to be in that position.
And it helps you now?
It helps me now. I worked at the company for a couple summers, and I was like, this is not for me. My family has always been very supportive of, if you all want to work for the company, great. You don't have to. But yeah, I definitely have a reputation at work of saying inappropriate things or saying whatever is on my mouth. I don't have a good filter, but I'm kind of proud of that. Yeah, and I think that comes from the fact that I was failing to launch a bit. And so I started seeing a coach who sort of helped me figure out what this was. Like, where does your mind go? Are you nonprofit? Or are you for profit? Are you corporate? Are you field? Are you, all those things? And since we do coaching at Rung purposely because this demographic does not understand coaching. They've never had the option. It's a bonus thing. It's just like therapy. It was never a thought in their mind that there would be somebody out there who would be willing to sit down with them and work through whatever they're going through. So when you hear the word executive coach, which is what I saw, you imagine in your mind, this is somebody who only sits with executives or people that have a lot of money and give them a direction. And I'm like, no. It's for anybody. So the coaches we have, we train in-house so that they're all learning the same way of coaching. But it is specifically for a demographic that is stuck. So we're starting from like zero. For somebody like me going to an executive coach, I have a foundation. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm going to land. For these women, it's coaching all the things. It's coaching, they struggle with parenting, they struggle with housing, they struggle with like, I need to buy a car, I don't know the right car to buy. Like these coaches are there to help direct them. And this is something that demographic is not used to. And the therapy too. We struggle with like, they go see their coach and they think it's a therapist. So then they go into trauma. Well, that's not what a coach is. A coach is there for the professional stuff. So go to the therapist to deal with trauma. So this is all stuff they've never really understood and they're learning. But then once they understand it and they see the benefit, it's great. And I wish everybody in the world had a therapist and I wish everybody in the world had a coach. Because if nothing else, it's incredibly validating.
Right. And the best performers out there have coaches, have multiple coaches. Yeah. And it's great that in the world that I think we're living in, more and more, famous people, athletes are talking about therapy and having a therapist.
Yes. And I think that is our special sauce. Like the part of the whole woman is literally the whole woman. And you can do all of those things independently, but doing them all in one place is game changing.
And I would think, that all in one place, it's easier to address how all of that is so interconnected and interwoven versus like it really is piecemeal and separate. Mm-hmm. As if you were to try to, like you said, go to all those separate places and buildings and handle it.
And that's exactly why I did the building the way I did it. The building is definitely my biggest line item on my budget, but it's worth it because to be able to just go to one place and you can drop your kids at Child Watch and you can go pick up a meal in the kitchen and the whole idea is you come in for services and then when you leave, you're done. Kids have homework done. Everybody's eaten. You go home, you go to bed, start the next day. Don't hit a drive-through. That's what we want to do, especially with these kids. Like, we'll feed them, we'll get their homework done. If they need a therapist of some kind, they can come to Rung and have a therapy session. We've had lots of kids on the spectrum. We have specialists come in to work with them. We just want to get all your stuff done so you can go home and go to bed.
That's
and
amazing.
It's really nice.
Well, and the women don't pay anything for this. This is all fundraising.
This is all free for them. The only thing they may have to pay for would be the clinic, which is an unavoidable thing. But Family Care Health works on a sliding scale. So people pretty much pay what they can afford. But other than that, we don't charge anything.
So if anybody's listening, or if there's organizations or people out there who work with women and think, what would be the right potential fit? What does that process look like from start to finish of somebody communicating, contacting Rung?
So again, the process is pretty arduous, but we do that on purpose. What we've learned in 9 cohorts is that we were not giving enough information up front. So they were feeling overwhelmed. They didn't realize what they were signing up for necessarily because we were really only giving them the good stuff. Like, hey, come here, make friends, get a job. It's going to be great. And now it's like, no, we really need to tell them what this means. And this is why we have them choose a pathway really early on, because that will really hone in on the work that they have to do. We do a lot of career fairs where we have companies come to us, again, like college, so that they can actually get in front of somebody at that company. And then we will follow up with those companies and they will call us and say, hey, I met with Samantha. I really think she'd be a great fit. Can you please tell her to apply? Which is great for us. But we've definitely gotten smarter about front loading information. because losing them because they don't have time is not good. And they need to know what they're getting into. And some of them change their pathway at some point, but it does set them back time-wise. And that's fine. But we ask a lot of them up front. And we get all their information. We have all their financial information, so we can get them going on financial coaching. We have, we know what kind of therapy or assistance they get so that we can sort of direct them in that way. But yeah, we've learned a lot about that over the years.
Yes, you mentioned earlier earning less than 50,000. It could be several months, November or so, that their applications are starting and the interviews are starting for a March cohort. That, then again, minimum 6 months, if not longer, with support even beyond that to go through the full cohort system process to applying for a job.
Yeah, and that's why we really require they currently be working. We did make some exceptions over COVID, but we do require they be working. We require they be able to get to Rung. And, age doesn't matter, but it's, we just need you willing to do the work.
Yeah, lots of not only the work that they get there, but as you mentioned, the community that they're building within and beyond with the group of women that they're going through their cohort.
Yeah, and everybody has a coach, and things happen. People have to have surgery. Their mom has to have surgery. We can make exceptions, but we need you to communicate that with us. And this is also what we're teaching them for their job later. We can make exceptions for things if, 25 is our minimum age, because when we were opening up to 21-year-olds, we tended to be used as more of a gap year, which is not what we're doing. But if we had some 22-year-old who came in and was like, I am ready to do this, we would make an exception. Everything is flexible. We just have to start somewhere. So we're just asking that you over communicate. Where are you at? What are you thinking? What are you struggling with? And asking those questions and forcing them to communicate that is also help in and of itself.
What's surprised you the most going through this?
The grit. I mean, I worry about and I don't want to sound like an old person, but I worry about the generation below me. I feel like in general, people have lost a little bit of that determination. When I was growing up, people had the same job for 30 years. It's just not the world we live in anymore. And it's not necessarily people's fault. It's companies, it's all the things. There just doesn't seem to be that determination like it used to be. But man, when these women show up, they show up. And honestly, I think we struggle more with our own staff sometimes than our members. Our members are just there to work. They just show up. And I'm really surprised by that, because people can interview well, but when the person shows up that you invited to come in and that's exactly who they are, that has been such a pleasant surprise for me. And they just work hard and they get involved and they ask questions and they communicate. And I'm like, it's amazing. It's like they've just been waiting for somebody to come and say, just let yourself over to this process. And once they do, I have been so pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, it sounds like they've just been waiting for somebody to say, I've got you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Biggest curveball?
Probably the political climate right now. It's been, we've been asked to change some of the wording in our grant proposals, which I'm not going to do. So that's created more of a challenge on that end. It's a little scary. We have a lot of companies we work with who are government funded. We have a lot of partners who are government funded, and it's just a very scary landscape right now. And nobody really knows where we're going to land. And that's a bit, because we don't really know how to communicate that to our members either, because we don't know. Nobody knows. Every day is something new. And I've never wanted to be an organization that was funded solely by the government. And I'm glad I wasn't, but I just feel like there's a lot of the unknown happening right now. And so it's very hard to find the right words and also the right amount of how do we make them feel safe when we don't necessarily know? So it's been an odd last year for sure. So that's been my biggest curveball.
Biggest lesson?
I think sometimes I move a little too quickly. I don't think it's an underpromise. I don't think it's an overpromise, underdeliver. I think it's more of a, I think I need to be more aware of where other people are when it comes to my dreams. I can have them and throw them out there and want them, but I got to give people time to catch up to me. And that is something my staff has expressed, and I appreciate that. When you guys keep coming in with new things, you don't realize that we have a lot of catching up to do. And I steered them wrong in that way. And I've really learned to be like, I have an idea. What do you think? Instead of saying, we're doing this. Now I'm being more collaborative in that it's like, tell me what you think. Do you think this would work? Like right now we're figuring out, are we going to go deeper in St. Louis, or are we going to go wider and start testing out other cities? That's a very scary concept. And our staff's like, well, what does that mean for us? I mean, are you going to make us move to some other city? And I'm like, no. This is just something I'm mulling around in my head, but I'm going to be much better about letting you know what's going on in the day-to-day, and not just being like, we made this decision, everybody get on board, because that doesn't work.
So a change potentially in leadership, communication.
It's time to grow. And what does that look like? The well eventually will run dry in St. Louis for jobs and for women. So what is that going to look like next? And we only have a limited number of companies in St. Louis. How do we connect with companies outside of St. Louis? Does that look like virtual work? Does that look like somebody could move? There's a lot to figure out, but it's time to start figuring out, we can grow. How are we going to grow? Do we start an entrepreneurship program? I mean, the sky's the limit. So we just have to throw some things out there and see what lands and what we can handle with our capacity.
So as a visionary, knowing who you are, making sure that you build the environment
Correct.
For others on your team who, are doing the different capacities to make it happen, giving them the space, the time, the communication,
yes,
to come on board and be a part of it, so it's not so scary and overwhelming.
Yes, and I want them to have ownership in it. I want all of us to have ownership in it. So if it's not going to work for them, then we're not going to do it. It can't just be about me commanding everybody what to do, because that's not going to work. So Leslie and I both share this in common. We're both dreamers, so we tend to get really big ideas. So we just got to bounce them off people a little more. Because the staff, that has been probably the only repeated complaint from staff is like, you guys got to quit with all the change, because once we catch up to something and then you change something else and then we got to readjust, it's hard. So we're learning how to be better.
What a inspiring, great, new, energizing organization to have in St. Louis, and to know that it's one of a kind, and potentially this could be brought to other cities that again can continue to change generations to come, because I think women in general drive a lot of things, but then if they have kids, will change those children's lives too. And that systemic change, the secret sauce of the coaching and the support for years to come, what a just a deep-rooted impact the organization has had and will continue to have. And the vision, wherever this goes, is just so exciting to see in our city.
It's very exciting. And we're currently working on a program now where it's called Rung Rise, and it's really just the career training. It's not the other stuff. It's a much faster process. But yeah, it's stuff like that is still who we are and what we do. It's just tweaking it a little bit to try to bring in more women. Yeah, there's a lot of options out there. We just have to figure out how to
So there's people who can work for the organization. There's other nonprofits who can work with the organization. There's women who can be a part of the programs. And obviously there's people who can help fund and donate and support the organizations. Does that capture, are there other ways that people can work?
We have a ton of volunteers. Our volunteers are amazing. We had a chef last year who tragically passed away very suddenly, and one of our volunteers started coming in and making meals. Like, they have been amazing. They bring in groups for the garden. They do a lot of gardening. They do, they'll do training sessions. You know, we'll have somebody from a bank come in and teach a class on budgeting. Our volunteers are amazing. They'll show up at our events. They'll mentor. They will be the actors when we're doing simulations. Our volunteer base is impressive, but we always need more. And it is a commitment. But there is something about women wanting to help each other and pull them up that is really impressive to watch.
What are all the ways, or the easiest ways, whichever, that people can find all of your lines of work?
So if you go on our website, which is rungforwomen.org, you can click on to be a volunteer. There's an application process for being a volunteer. It goes through all the steps of applying. It talks about all of the different services we offer. It gives you some success stories of women who've gone through the program. It's a very step-by-step process of what this is going to look like. And so that's that's another thing over the years we've really not perfected. It's never going to be perfect, but we've really progressed our website and made it much more user-friendly. So that's really where all of our information goes. I would love if somebody called me and said, I want to volunteer, and I just said, great, show up tomorrow. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. These are also lessons I'm learning. So yeah, that's our sort of beacon of all information.
The website is the place to go, whether you want to apply for a cohort, whether you want to look to donate, fundraise, volunteer.
All of our events are on there. Anyone, if you have further questions, who you can call directly. Our emails are all pretty easy. Mine's just Ali@rungforwomen.org. That's everybody's email, just their first name. And so we do community events that we invite anybody to come to, which is a really good way to just get in the building and see it. We do community tours, I believe, every Wednesday. So you can just come in and get a tour. We feel like it helps a lot to be in the building. It really paints the picture when you're in the building. It's just very hard to communicate what that looks like. So we have lots of opportunities for people to come. We have a lot of companies that do leadership programs where they bring in all of their employees and they plant peppers for the day or whatever. We do a lot of that team building stuff. We have a huge community center, so we invite a lot of businesses in St. Louis to hold their events there, whether it be a seminar or a party or a cocktail hour, whatever it may be. We do have this community center, which is fairly new, and it's a massive room, holds about 200 people. So we invite companies to come in that way, which also is on the website. You can book events and get more information.
Well, I don't know. I feel, hopeful from this conversation, not only with, again, St. Louis and what people are doing out there in the community, but also learning a lot about what people go through, how we can help others, how we can learn about ourselves and grow to become better. Progress, not perfection. So thank you, Ali, for coming today and sharing so much unscripted.
I didn't swear at all, though. I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah, we did a great job. So thanks for coming on today. Appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you.
This concludes another episode of the Shelift Project podcast. To hear more episodes of the show, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And to learn more about our mission of helping women reach higher levels of success, visit sheliftproject.com and sign up to receive the latest news, ebooks, videos, and more.